Hello Steelers, and welcome to this game of Undaunted Normandy. I recently did a review of this game and also just a bit of a quick explanation as well. You can see that video on the rest of the channel. I will put a link in this video and also in the description below, so you can check that out at your leisure. So I'm not going to talk too much about the game, just really to talk about what I'm going to do today is I'm going to play the first scenario in the base game, which is the opening scenario, obviously, of the campaign as well, and I'm going to play it solo. Normally this is a two-player game, and you can play this using the AI solo bot that came with reinforcements box, which I have got, but I'm not going to play that because I just want to show you how this would normally play in a two-player game. So I'm going to play it solo, but I'm going to have a couple of tweaks because I've seen a couple of videos online where people have tweaked the gameplay for a solo play for this, and I'll explain that as I go along anyway. So the first couple of turns are probably going to be quite slow, just while I explain some of the rules and show you some of the cards and what you can do and things and how the actual game. But as the game goes on, it will speed up because this is a pretty simple introductory scenario for this game. Well, enough talking from me and enough from Tiny here. I'll jump over, we'll get the camera set up and I'll start this game, and hopefully it'll show you how the actual game works, and maybe will inspire you to buy it yourselves. Okay, so this is the setup. As you can see here, this is the table that we're fighting over. We've got an American start point here and a German start point here as well, and in these start points we've got scouts, riflemen, scouts, riflemen. These are the two different companies, sections. So we've got Scouts A and Rifleman A, and Scouts B and Rifleman B. Same with the Germans, they've got Scouts A, Rifleman A, Scouts B, Rifleman B. So I did mention in my introduction and review that some of the games are unbalanced. This one isn't, because it's the introductory game, and it's incredibly balanced, just so that you can get used to basically the very basic rules of the game. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's just have a quick look at the rest of the table. So you can see these double-sided squares are put into place as per the instructions on the scenario sheet itself. And we also have a deck of cards each, one for the Germans, one for the Americans. We'll talk about those in a second. But these, you get these from the lists here. In the scenario notes, and it just tells you which starts in your deck or which starts in supply and what types there are. It also tells you who has the starting initiative, and in this case it's the Americans, so we're using this token here just to show who's got the initiative for the turn, just so I remember if nothing else. You can also see as well on some of these we have these are the objective points. So this is worth 1 over here, this is worth 2, 2, 1, 1. This one over here is worth 3. And the objective points, the objective of the game is to gain 5 objective points. So far, and the way to do this is to control. I'm sorry, I've just got one too many things on the board there. That was from earlier on. The objective of this game is to take control of these areas and get these points here. I do apologise. I've just realised I put a couple of these things in the wrong place, so I've just reset them up. And the way that you do this is by placing a control marker on the control side, such as that there. So the Germans is obviously the German cross, and the Americans is a star, and that shows that you control that particular area, and then you will get the points for it. So over here, for example, the Germans have already controlled this area, so they're already starting with 3 points, so they're actually ahead already. So it's slightly unbalanced in that way, but not too much, because they've got to get all the way over here to get the other 2 points to be able to win the game. Also, they can win the game. I do apologise and keep blowing on this because Tiny's left her fur everywhere. Also, the other way to win the game is if you pin the opponent's rifleman teams by basically destroying their units in them and not allowing them to do anything. So that's another win. So you can do it by fire or by capture. And again, give me a second, I'm just putting my jumper on because it's a bit nippy up here today. So this is the layout of the board, and one other thing as well I'll just mention here on the board itself is actually two more things. One thing first of all is this token here that says all. This just shows if anybody of your side is taken out and destroyed as a section, and they are able to come back in because they've got units back in the supply, and you can put them back into the game. They will start here. In other games, sometimes it may, in other scenarios, for instance, it might have a B on the side, so only people from section B can come into there, for example. In this case, all the Americans are starting here, all the Germans are starting here. And the other thing, the final thing, is you can see that we've got these tokens here. These are binocular side up at the moment. This means these have been scouted, so that means that Riflemen can move into them. However, Riflemen on both sides can't move into any of the areas that haven't been scouted. And the way to scout them is you literally just move a scout in, and then you place an upside down, well, a binocular token in to show it's been scouted. However, when you place one of these, you also have to take a fog of war card and put that into your discard pile, which will be down here. So the more that you scout out quicker, the more fog of war you're creating for yourself. So it's a bit of a balance between moving forward fast but slowing up as well to be able to get rid of those fog of war cards. And we'll show you how to do that as the game goes on. That's something that scouts can do specifically. So let's have a look at the decks of the cards. Both of these are exactly the same, they just have different designs in them. So this is the American one, for example, and then this is the German one on the other side as well. And obviously you can tell which is which because one has the German cross and the other one has the American star. So what we have here is each of these cards again. I'm just going to go through these first of all just to show you how they work. So the first one is the platoon sergeant. This number up here in the top left corner is initiative. So normally in a two-player game you would bid for initiative. You draw 4 cards from your hand, from your deck, sorry, and you play one from your hand, and that is your initiative for the turn. Whoever gets the highest initiative wins. If it's tied, then whoever had initiative last turn gets the initiative. So in this case, the Americans start with initiative. So that means that if there's a tie, the Americans will get the initiative in the first turn. So this is a platoon sergeant. You can see here he can bolster, he can also command. Bolster means drawing cards from your supply. So this over here is your supply. Let's just go through these cards. So basically you have a deck face down. This is where the deck building part comes in. So normally you have a deck face down like this. You would then draw some cards from that would become your hand. Then you also have over here a discard pile as you use your cards up in your hand. And then you also have the supply. This is a thing that you've got to get in your head if you've not played any deck building kind of games before, because this is where you are drawing cards for when they become casualties, or also just when you're actually adding them to your hand and your deck. So with that in mind, our platoon sergeant, he can bolster, and because it's just bolster and it says 3, that means he can take 3 cards from any of these supply decks here, so he's pretty good for that. Command means that he can draw from the face down deck and put these cards straight into play, so he's got a 2 for that, so again he's pretty good. Over here, squad leader, he has bolster 2, but it says A next to it, and you can see he has a initiative rating of 7, but he has bolster 2A, so that means he can bolster 2 cards into your deck, or into your discard pile. I'll show you how that goes anyway. But they have to come from section A. He can't take them from B because he's squad leader A. So then we also have a scout as well. And oh sorry, one more thing on the squad leader. He has an inspire 1A. 1 means he can inspire 1 other card, but it has to be from platoon A or section A. Sorry. An inspire means that card can then take a second turn in that particular turn. So that's basically you're just getting a double up for anything for want of a better word. Your scout, again, they have an A here which shows which section they're connected to. We've got Rifleman there. We've also got Squad Leader B, Rifleman B, and Scout there. We'll talk about the fog of war cards in a minute. Scout is basically then moving, and they can move 2, so they can move through 2 terrain areas, 1, 2, and as I say, when they move into a fresh one that doesn't have a scouting marker on, we put a scouting marker on, but we also take a fog of war card. We also have an attack, which I will cover in detail as we go along, because I'm sure there's going to be some fighting. Recon is you can actually remove a fog of war card in your hand. Not from your discard pile, not from your deck, but from your hand, and you can actually take it out of the game. So that's pretty good. It means he can't do anything else that turn, but it does mean that he can get rid of fog of war cards which will block up his hand. And conceal is almost the opposite. You're basically putting fog of war cards into the enemy's hand. So you're putting those into their discard pile and piling them up and making it harder for them to play the game. Riflemen are pretty simple. They can move, they move 1, they can attack 1, which means they're rolling 1 dice, similar to the scouts. They're not great. Machine gunners are better, they have a higher rate of fire, as you'd expect. They can move 1, and again, as we said, we can only move into an area which has been scouted. And they can control. Control is when you flip a scouted marker over to its control point, like that. Now, you can't control a point if an enemy is in there already. So let's see, we've got the scouts here, we've got our riflemen here. I can't play a control to flip that because I've got to get rid of the scouts first. Also, the other thing is, if the Germans are in control of that particular area, I have to flip that over as a control first, and then I can flip that over. And obviously I wouldn't have scouts in there, but I have to basically go 1 and then 2. So it's going to take at least 2 turns, or perhaps, you know, a turn and then an inspire from a squad leader to take control of that particular area. So that's really how control works, very simple. And for the first scenario, that's it for the infantry cards. So we have those, just put those together. And then the other one is the fog of war cards. The only thing you can use these for is for playing for initiative, and it will be a score of 1. So it's pretty rubbish, but if you don't really want the initiative that turn, you want to see what your opponent's going to do, then you can just play that. And it also uses that card out of your hand as well if you've got it in there. So as I say, the problem with the fog of war cards is once you draw them, they kind of block up your hand. So normally what you would do at the start of the game is you shuffle your decks. So I'm just going to shuffle the Americans here just to show you that I'm doing this. I'm going to now shuffle the Germans. As I said, the German deck is exactly the same in this scenario, made up exactly the same. This is a starting deck of as the Americans. So let me just quickly shuffle this together first of all. And then what we would normally do in a normal 2-player game is both sides would draw 4 cards, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just look at these. So we've got a platoon sergeant, squad leader, a rifleman, and fog of war. And then the Germans would also draw those. They keep these to themselves. So as I said, this is the draw deck, this is your hand, and then we also have a discard pile that will come in. So the Germans here have got fog of war, squad leader, fog of war, and a scout. So normally what you would do in the initiative phase, which starts each turn, is you would both choose a card and play that to see who gets the initiative. In this case, the Americans, I would probably play the fog of war, just simply because it is getting rid of it out of their hand to play. It will come back in because they haven't got a scout to get rid of it, but it gives them a few more choices here in their turn because there's better cards. The Germans, same again. I would probably play fog of war here, and I would bid that into the initiative bid, because they've already got 2 fog of war cards in there. They could use their scout to get rid of one of these and get it out of the game, and then use their squad leader to actually start bolstering troops into their units as well. So this is what you would do, and then you both reveal the cards that you've chosen normally. So in this case it's tied, and because we said the Americans are starting with the initiative, on any tie they keep the initiative anyway. So that's how we do it. However, I'm playing solo, and I'm just going to do a little tweak on this. So what I'm going to do instead for the initiative is I'm going to shuffle these decks, and I'm just going to draw the top card of the deck against each other. So it's going to be a completely random one, and whoever wins the initiative starts the turn. And I'm going to draw 3 cards for their decks first of all, and then I'm going to draw the initiative card. So but I'm going to put the 3 decks for their 3 cards face down for their hand, if this makes sense. So you'll see what I mean. So 1, 2, 3. So that's the American hand. I'm then going to shuffle the German side. Oh, and one more thing as well. When you're doing the initiative, normally the card that you've used to bid with initiative, you put that into your discard pile straight away. So you don't actually start with that card. So that's why it's better. In that case, it was better to get the rubbish cards out of their hand, because it would help them in the later turn. So now I draw a card from here for the Americans. So they've drawn a Fog of War card, and the Germans have drawn a Squad Leader. So the Germans is 7 against the 1. So all the Germans have used up a Squad Leader card, so that will go into their discard pile here. They have now got the initiative. So now, because again it's solo, now I'm going to reveal the German hand. I'll just flip that over to show who has the initiative. So we have in our hand a platoon sergeant, we've got a Fog of War, and we've got a Rifleman. Okay, with that, so the platoon sergeant, as I said, he can bolster 3 cards from anywhere, so he can actually just draw 3 cards in from here, and we put those into the discard pile to get shuffled back in once this draw deck has depleted. I've got a Fog of War card, I don't really like that, and I've got a Rifleman here. I'm not going to get rid of what I'm going to do. He can also command as well, the platoon sergeant, so I'm going to get the platoon sergeant to command and hopefully draw a scout, so I can try to get rid of this Fog of War card, or even move them further forward. So let's see, we said as soon as you play a command card, command order, you can use the cards immediately in that turn. So okay, that's not drawn out the scout, which I was hoping for, but that's he's done. That's all he can do. But we've pulled out another Rifleman from B, a Squad Leader, and also we've still got the Rifleman there. So I can't get rid of this Fog of War card. So I'm just going to discard that for now, just to get it out of my playing area, so it's not blocking me up at the moment. But you can see it's already, it depletes your choices straight away. So we've got Scout Rifleman B. So what I'm wanting to do is really try to get the Germans over here to this farmhouse to attack it and hold it. If they can hold that, then they will win the game immediately. So I'm going to use Rifleman B, and he's just going to move into this area here that's been scouted, because you can see it's already got the scout block. So that's done there. And then I've got Squad Leader A, so he can either bolster or inspire. The other thing I've got here is this Rifleman A over here, so I could take a couple of shots at the Americans at this point, just to try to keep their heads down. Is it worth it? Because what I really need is scouts to be pushing forward to get out here. I could do a large attack down here, but I kind of want to do a bit of a pincer attack into to try to hedge my bets a bit. And no, I'll tell you what, they've got one area that they want to go for, and it's 13B, so let's use him, bring him in here. That's his first move. And then we've got Inspire, which means it's Inspire A, so this is Rifleman A, so he can actually get him to use him again, so that would be his turnover. So I'm going to get him to then fire at the, let's go for Rifleman B, because we want to try and keep their heads down. Now the way firing works, shooting is pretty simple. You take the amount of dice that it says on your attack, so in this case it's 1, so 1d10. You count up the number of squares between you and the target. There's no blocking of line of sight, you can see everything, you can hit everything. However, obviously the further away it is, the harder it is to hit. So we've got 1, 2. We then add the defense value of the tile itself, so that's 3, so that's now 5. Then we also add the defense value of the character we're firing at, in this case Rifleman B. So that is a 4, so that becomes a 9. We need a 9 or above to hit him. So that's simple. 8 is a miss. A 10 is always a hit, so you can always hit something at some point. And that ends his turn. That was his second turn. So I'll just put that to one side. So now that has created our discard pile over here, which I've just got just off camera. But you can see we are now onto the Americans' turn. So in the Americans' hand, unfortunately for them, they've got Fog of War, but they do have a scout, and they also have a squad leader as well. So let's work our way through this. Now the scout, we need to be getting out and moving, so I'm going to be ignoring this fog of war card. So I'm going to use the scout to actually move, because we need to get some of these points, these places. So the first one is going to move into here and put down a scouted point, and then the second one I'm going to move him into here and put down another scouted point. Because he's put down 2 control markers, scouted points there, we've got to take 2 fog of war cards and put those into our hand. He can no longer get rid of that fog of war card, so I'm just going to put that into my hand as well. And then he's also done his move, and his turn is over, so I'll put that into the discard pile as well. So now we've still got our squad leader. He can only inspire somebody from his squad, which is A. There's nobody in play that I can do because the scout was from B. So he can bolster, but he can only bolster from 2. So what bolster is, I will take 2 cards from squad A, 1, 2. I'm going to take 2 riflemen. Actually no, I'm going to take, at this point I'm going to take a rifleman and a scout, and they then go into that discard pile, and that's his turn over. So next turn, that's the first turn over. So next turn is, again, we draw our 3 cards, 1, 2 and 3. So let's see, they've now depleted their deck, so I will then shuffle. And for our initiative, we both draw a card, and this time we have a platoon sergeant versus a rifleman, so the Americans win the initiative back. So again, these go into discard piles, so we flip those over, and the Americans, let's reveal their cards. See, we don't reveal German cards until it's their turn. So now we've got Scout A, a rifleman and a squad leader here. So Rifleman B, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to move with him first of all into here, and then I'm going to use the squad leader to inspire him to control that. So now the Americans are up on 2 points straight away. So that's them 2 done, out of the way. And then we have over here our Scout A. As I say, I need to get him into, I can't get rid of a fog of war card because I don't want to have him in my hand. Oh dear. Do I come over here, or do we start protecting this area over here? That's the big question. We need to get 5 points in total. Well, he's kind of heading down this way, so I'm going to ignore this one. I'm just going to scout up here so I can get a rifleman in and hopefully capture that point as well. So that's the scout, but because we moved in and we put a control marker in, we take a fog of war card, that goes into our hand, and that is the scout's turn over and the Americans' turn over. So then we flip the German cards. Okay, we've got a fog of war card, we've also got scouts here, and we need to get moving because the Americans are now in the position that we don't want them in. So we've got 2 scout cards here. They wanted these really last turn, so Scout A is actually going to go 1, 2 up here, and he's going to move up and scout this area, but then he takes 2 fog of war cards for doing so. But I'm wanting to block the Americans from doing something over there. And then the second Scout B, so that was Scout A, just put him away, and then the second Scout B, 1, 2. We've already got a control marker here, so we'll put a new one in here and then take our third fog of war card for this turn. So again, I need to get rid of this rifleman to be able to control this area and then flip the Americans' control. So it's going to be a bit of a tough fight to get this, but we'll see what happens. We can't get rid of that fog of war card out of the game, so that just stays in our discard pile. Ending turn 2. So the Americans, again, they've only got 1 card there, so we're going to shuffle up. I was wondering why the Germans had a smaller deck in the first turn, and then I remembered that they actually they didn't use the command of their sergeant to get a couple more cards out. So 1, 2, 3, that's the Americans, and then we've got 1, 2 and 3 for the Germans. So now we check our scores for initiative. Germans 7 against 1. So the Germans have the initiative this time. So into our discard piles. So let's just shift those out of the way and see what the German cards are. We have a rifleman, platoon sergeant and a squad leader. So that's actually quite a good mix actually. What we're going to do here is we're going to push on because the Americans are in the place they want to be. So I'm going to move the rifleman into here first of all. So that's his first move. I'm going to put that there because I'm going to inspire him in a second. Well, actually I'm going to inspire him straight away. So I'm going to use the squad leader to get the rifleman to fire at the American rifles. So because we're in the same square, we don't count any range, but we do count their defense value and the square's defense value. So it's 5. So I need a 5 or above, and this is the inspire, so he moved and then fired. 5 and above. That was cocked, so let me just roll that again. A 5, so that's hit. So now you see what happens when we hit. So what we have to do for the Americans is first of all we check their hand, and if there's a rifleman B in their hand, that is removed from the game. He's killed. There isn't one, so we'll just put that to one side. We then check their discard pile. There isn't one, there's only a fog of war card in there. So then we have to check their deck, and we find one out of here. Squad leader, rifleman B, there we are, that's our first one. This is Ramos Kerig. So he has now been killed and he's out of the game. So I'm just going to put him up there, out of the game. We'll reshuffle the deck because we went through it. And that's how you do combat. If you get to a point where you can't find any men in your hand, in your deck or your discard pile, then the piece is removed and is pinned, and it can only come back on when you have a rifleman or a scout or somebody from that squad and they come back on in that area. In this case, I think we've still got men in here. It's only if you can't find one. We've found one, so he's off. If they keep getting attacked, they will grind them down. You don't take them from the supply unless something specifically says you do take them from the supply. In this case you don't, because that will just stop them from being pinned until everybody's killed. So that was our rifleman's second one, and the squad leader was the one who inspired him to do that firing, so good for him. Okay, I've got the sergeant now, the platoon sergeant, Randolph Wagner. The question here is, do I bolster, because we're now in the fight, just to get more rifles in so I can do a bit more firing? I think I'm going to. One other thing you can do as well is you can also hunker down, which is basically you remove the card from your hand and put it back into your supply. So if in the game you don't want many scouts, you can hunker them down, put them back in the supply, and it just makes your draw hand a bit tighter to get out the cards you want. But that's for another time. So bolster, I'm going to actually bolster up with 3 cards, 3 riflemen from A, because A is in a good position here and I want them to be defending. So I'm going to put those into, because that's the bolster, they go into the discard pile. So that's the end of his turn. So that's the Germans done. So we check the Americans. So we have Scout A. We also have a Rifleman A as well, who is up here. Who I could potentially bring him in here, not do much else. So yeah, I'm going to bring him in here because we need some defence in this area. I'm going to bring him in, and he's just going to sit there. He can't do anything else. Now I've got the Scout, and now because I've got a Fog of War card in my hand, I could use Recon to get rid of Fog of War. And we have built quite a few of these up, so I'm just going to do that. Nice and simple, just to get rid of it. I could have attacked Scout A over here, but I want to reduce the amount of Fog of War that I've got in my hand. So you actually remove it from the game and then draw a new card as well on top of that, so you do get a bit of a turn. So then I've got Rifleman A again, so this means I can do something with the Rifleman A. So well, he may as well attack Rifleman A on the Germans over here. So it's the same firing procedure. He's in the same area. So there's no counting on range. It's a 1 for the defence, a 4 on his defence, so that becomes a 5. 5 up, a 2 is a miss, so no effect from that shooting. But at least we've got the rifleman in there and firing. So that ends that turn. Next up, draw our 3 cards. for both, so the Germans have run out of cards here. Let's just get these quickly shuffled up. There we go, 1, 2, and then we check for initiative. So the German initiative is 1 from a fog of war card, the American initiative is 7, it's their squad leader, so the Americans take the initiative. And let's see what their cards are. They kind of need it at this point because they need to be blasting those Germans around that farmyard. So we've got squad leader B here, we've got platoon sergeant, so he could draw a couple of extra cards, and we've got the scout A as well over here. I don't have a fog of war card in my hand, so I can't get rid of it with a scout, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a platoon sergeant to command and draw 2 new cards. There we go, speak too soon, fog of war card and B scout. So what we're going to do, so that's the platoon sergeant done, he's done his bit. So I'm going to use the scout here to remove this fog of war card, so they draw a new card. It's another fog of war card, so I'm going to use this scout to get rid of that fog of war card. So he's done, and then we draw the card, and again it's a fog of war card, but we've reduced the fog of war cards so far by 3. There's 10 in total, so that brings it down to 7, so that's pretty good. Squad leader can't get rid of fog of war cards. He can inspire, but I've not done anything else. Apologies there, the camera just stopped on me because some limits were reached, but just to say, we've got the squad leader here, and he had squad leader B, so I do actually have the scout here, so I could do something with this scout. Scout B over here, I could actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push him forward into here, so move into there and take back another fog of war card, so I can now start moving riflemen in here to actually try and capture these areas, because we've already got this one, we just need to get these 2 here. So that's the Americans' turn. It shows you how they do the recon and they get rid of things. The Germans, unfortunately for them, they have 2 fog of war cards and a scout, but I'm going to use that scout to get rid of one of their fog of war cards, take it out of the game. So we draw a new card, and this time it's the squad leader. He can inspire, so we've got the scout again. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to use him again to get rid of that scout, get rid of that fog of war card. But that uses the squad leader up, but it does draw as a new card, which is a Rifleman A, and we have a Rifleman A over here. He's going to fire at Rifleman B of the Americans, keep up that firing, try to grind them down a bit. So he has a defense of 4, 5 in total because of the area he's in. 9, so that is a hit. So again, we have to check the Americans' hand. They haven't got a hand at the moment. We would then check the discard pile. So we look through here, find a Rifleman B. Rifleman A, Rifleman A. There isn't one. We don't have a deck face down. We can't draw from the supply. So Rifleman B is actually taken off. So that has to come back on here when they've got somebody from the squad who's able to act, and they bring them on. So that's good shooting. It's because the Americans didn't actually bolster their units there, so they're pretty defenceless. Something you've got to remember to do, really. Alright, but that's the end of the Germans' turn, so it's now over to the next turn. So let's just check. Let's draw our cards. 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we do our initiative. So the German initiative is 5 for the Riflemen. The American initiative is 1 for their fog of war. So the Germans have the initiative this time round. So their cards are a Rifleman, fog of war and a squad leader. Okay, they can't do a great deal with that, but the fog of war, I mean, they can't do anything with that, so I'm going to take that out because they've got no cards that was going to get rid of it in their hand. But they have got a squad leader who is going to get the Rifleman to fire twice at the American Riflemen's over here. So I'm just going to take 2 shots at them. So same again, 5 and above is a hit. First shot is a 1, so that's a miss. Second shot is an 8, that is a hit. So we check the Americans' hand first of all for any Rifleman A. No. We check their discard pile, they've only got Fog of War in there, so no, and then we check their deck for Rifleman A. So there is one, so that is Robert Denton has been shot and killed in action. And that was the second action of that Rifleman, inspired by the squad leader, so that ends that German turn. So it's over to the Americans. They've got a Fog of War, a squad leader and a scout card. Let's see, what's there? Scout A is faced off against the Germans up at the top there, we can see. Squad leader B on his own can't do much, but we can bolster, so I'm going to use him to bolster 2 cards from B, because we've already lost Rifleman B, so we need to put Rifleman B in there. The squad leader on his own can't bring the thing, he has to be a Rifleman, it has to be the type of card type that's on the token itself, so it has to be a Rifleman, so I've got to bring him in to do that. Then we've got Scout A over here. Let's fire at Scouts A over here. We could use these to do the conceal and add Fog of War cards to the Germans deck, but I'm not going to. Or I could get rid of this Fog of War card as well and draw a new card. Is that a better plan? Yeah, I think it is actually. I'm going to get rid of that Fog of War card and draw a new card, hoping for something. Ah, there we go, Scout A, so that's perfect. So he can now fire at that German Scout A. Their defence is 5 on a 2, so that becomes a 7, 7 up, a 6, no, it's a miss, so no effect for them. But at least he did something. And that's that turn over. So next turn, so we'll draw 3 cards for the Americans, 3 cards for the Germans, then we show their initiative, 5 for the Germans, 1 for the Americans. The Germans keep the initiative this turn, so let's just put those cards here out of your way, and then we've got a platoon sergeant, a Fog of War and a scout card. Scout is going to get rid of that Fog of War card, so get rid of that, and then we draw a new card. So we've got Rifleman A here as well, and also the platoon sergeant as well. He could command and draw out 2 more cards. I think I will, because I want to press the attack at this point, so that's what he's going to do. We could bolster and put some more cards in here, but I don't want to at this point. I just want to try to pin these Americans if I can, the Riflemen in particular. If I can do that, the Germans can win the game. So he will command, draw 2 cards. There's 1, there's 2. That's pretty good actually. So I'll just get rid of him because he's done. Squad leader B, he can bolster or inspire, so I'm going to bolster 2 Riflemen, because we're now at the point of attacking. So they go into the discard pile, so I'm just going to stick him there. And then we've got these 2 Riflemen from A, who are in a great position to fire at Rifleman A of the Americans. So let's just put this down here. First shot, we're looking at 5s and up. First one is a 10, so that is a hit on Rifleman A. So we check their hand, there he is, he's out. So who was that, sorry? That is James Allen has been shot. And then our second shot, 5 up, that's another hit, that's a 10. So platoon sergeant and scout are in there. So we then check the discard pile. So let's have a look, Rifleman A in there, Rifleman A, Fog of War, and then we check their deck. Squad leader A. So that means that that man is now pinned. The game only ends if both sides Riflemen are pinned. I've just checked, so I do apologise. So we're still playing the game, but yeah, the Americans are a bit banjaxed at this point. But let's have a look, see what they do with their turn. So we've got their 2 cards. They've got a scout and a platoon sergeant. The platoon sergeant is going to play command and bring out 2 new cards. I've only got 1 here, so I'm going to have to draw another one from here, and we're going to have to start doing some bolstering here to get into interaction. So we've got, that's their 2 cards. So we've got squad leader and squad leader B. I'm just going to have to bolster here, so I need 2 Riflemen from squad B, so that's his action, and then 2 Riflemen from squad A, that's his action. So we've at least got some Riflemen in the deck now, so they might come out at some point. Then we've got Scout B, And where is Scout B? He's all the way down here on his own. Is there much he can do really? I'll tell you what we can do. He can't recon, but he can conceal, so I'm going to use him. Or he could attack. No, I'm going to conceal. I'm going to put a Fog of War card into the Germans' deck using that, and that's his turn over. So that was the Americans' turn. So then we draw our 3 cards again. 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. Then our initiative cards. So we got 7 for the Germans, a 1 for the Americans. So the Germans retain the initiative, and they're going to need it. But let's just see what they do. We've got a Rifleman A, Fog of War, and a Scout A. Tricky. Well, Rifleman A, first of all, is going to use control. And I'm going to flip the American control over to there. And then Scout A, I could either get rid of this Fog of War card because they've just taken 1 from the American. I'm going to, because that means I get to draw another card as well. Perfect. Rifleman A, he's going to control, sorry, flip the wrong one. He's going to control this area. So that means they now have 3 and 5. So that means they win the game. They've got their control points, so they were able to bring it out. So that ends the game. The Americans got absolutely hammered there. What I probably should have done really earlier on is bolster those units once they were in this position here really. I was a bit more concentrating on spreading out to get these points, because the Americans don't have a great number of points around them, whereas the Germans are already 3 up here, and they just need to get into, say, this particular position and control it, which they did, fair dues to them. But that's basically how the game plays. That shows you the very basic moves. As I say, the difference being here is that I'm playing this solo rather than as a 2-player, and in 2-player you just decide which card you want to play as initiative. In the solo one it's a bit more random, but it adds a nice little bit of Fog of War and friction to the game anyway, I think. Very simple, very easy. You'll pick this up no time at all. This was just the introductory scenario. I'm going to play more of these. I'll do more, maybe a series of these as we go on, similar to what I did with the Commands and Colours games. And you can just then see how the games play out and if it's something you're interested in. Thanks for watching. As ever, let me just have a look at how many we killed. The Germans really did a lot of damage to the Americans. They got 2 rifles out of A, and then 1 rifleman out of B as well. So yeah, they really did give them a good hammering then. And the Germans themselves, they lost none. They just had Fog of War, which they removed themselves. But yes, the game itself flows nice and easily. It looks good. You can, it's really nicely well produced, as you'd expect from Osprey. They always produce nice looking books, if nothing else. And this was a great little game of it, and it's something that you could quite easily play on a club night. As you've seen, this is about an hour or so of gaming, and it's a conclusion has been reached. You could play this and then maybe play a second or even third scenario in a few hours quite easily. The setup is very easy, very quick, and it is a great little game. Well worth checking out. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit that like and the subscribe button. Also check out my Patreon and also my Ko-fi if you want to help support the channel. You can also be a channel supporter as well here on YouTube. No pressure though, I'll still be making videos, but look out for the next one, and thank you very much for watching.